This is the video review for Transformers Animated Deluxe Class Swoop. This is probably one of my more favorite animated figures. For one, because its plastic quality is a bit better than on some of the other figures. Like, despite that he has a ton of ball joints and a lot of them are small, he has not taken as much wear as a bunch of the other figures, like especially Cybertron Mode Optimus Prime. That figure was really bad, but this figure is kind of tiny, and in fact, it's kind of comparable to Revenge of the Fallen Scout class figure. So, by weight and plastic content, this figure was a bit of a rip-off back when it was available. But by actual design, this is actually a pretty good figure. Now this is his pterodactyl mode, and it's not the most posable mode. He had a gimmick where you could pull the wings up and flap them, and the arms would go with them because they were jointed along the same axis, but I ended up disabling that because, well, for one, it wasn't a pin through here, it was just a sort of clipped on, and I kept popping them off. They just weren't attached very well. So I ended up gluing these straight, and I'm happy I did because it makes the wing assembly quite a bit more stable. But it is a shame that that gimmick couldn't have been engineered just that littlest bit better. Now here he is kind of flying. Whoosh. You can look down, and that's a bit more natural because flying he would be looking down for prey. He can hold his I guess you call this morning star in his foot like that, and what you can do is you can stand this guy up, and he has sort of a bipedal mode. Now this is the big part where the wing flapping actually would come into play, because when he stands like this, you could have folded the wings forward, and it would have made for a fairly natural looking standing with a wing slightly folded pose, but like this you can't really do that. So that's about the only bad thing for having bricked the wings. Otherwise, it's a very good change. Now, I say brick, that's just the up and down rotation. They can still rotate up and down, like forward and back like this. Now, transform this guy is very simple, and in fact, it's so simple that it's basically just him extending upwards from the standing position. So in some ways, it's like, why bother? Just keep your flight characteristics of this mode, of one mode, and the ability to have all of your appendages working in the proper... I don't know, it's just like, why bother having a transformation when the two modes are so similar? You can have one mode that has the best qualities of each and none of the bad qualities. So, anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's still a very nice figure. To begin, pull the feet down and unpeg them from the crotch, and they will swing down a little bit. This is one of those things that's not really shown in the instructions, and it takes some studying the figure to get. Then turn the legs around below the knee. Unpeg the arms from the wings. And unpeg the wings from the back. Split apart the chest and bring it up. Rotate the pelvis around. Push the beak into a little notch in here. And then there are two little tabs on the outside of the beak. Make sure these little holes in the chest pieces go around those, and then make sure the arms are out of the way, and then the wings will tab back onto his back. And tabbing them on like this is actually kind of hard if you don't know what you're doing. It takes some practice to do. And then finally pull up his head. And a lot of people complain about this. The cup on his ball joint doesn't grab onto it very much. A lot of people complain about it popping off, but I've never had that happen, so I may have a later run, or I may just be lucky. And this is Swoop. You can either leave his wings up like this, or you can fold them back into a cape. I actually kind of like doing both, where like his cape is when he's like, imagine a monocle, he's like sipping tea, and then the wings out, or for like when he's attacking. And actually, yeah, the wings will come undone from the back kind of easily. I mean, it takes practice getting them in there really solidly. That's like sipping tea or flying and attacking. Now the posability on this figure is kind of different. The legs are like you expect, forward, back, out, no mid-thigh swivel, and only 90 degrees at the knees. Even though he has a ball joint up here, the ball joint goes the wrong way. He has the ball joint rotation below the knee, and then he has ball jointed feet. And the feet have a pretty good heel that can move like this. It's good for, well, not grabbing things except for the Morningstar weapon, but good for getting him balanced just right. And the arms are where his articulation is kind of weird, because you can't really move this forward because then this bumps into here. You can do it a little bit, and then so to bring his arm forward, you really have to bend it like this, and his arms, they're weird at first. And every time I pick up this guy and mess with him, they're like, what? You gotta be kidding me, these arms suck. And it just takes getting used to them again to really get what how they're supposed to be used, because his hands, they're not like human hands, they're more like bird claws, so this is really how it's supposed to look when his arms are forward. So rather than like this, it's like this. And it looks pretty natural on this guy. It's not like curling iron arms, and that's because they look more like claws. They look more like what his feet are. And once you get that, it's not nearly so obnoxious. And one thing I like is that his weapon is on a chain, and as you can see, the parts were... I don't quite know how these were put together because there aren't any seams on them. It's almost like they were cast together, and then there's like a little sprue beneath them, and then it's like on each one just so it frees up. But beyond that, I have no idea how they were, how that was made. And then you can put this into his hand. There's a specific way it goes in where there's a notch cut out for his thumb and a notch cut out for this lower finger. And this is it's not very kinetic just because it always hangs down, so you couldn't pose it so it's like up like that, which would have been cool, but it is threatening in a very subtle way, especially since you can have him stretching the chain out like this. And I like that. No, I didn't spend much time on it. You can do... It's possible to do a better job on it like that. That's a far better job. And then his neck is on the ball joint, so it's very posable. I forgot to mention that. And he also has a bit of a waist swivel, but the beak will get in the way a little bit. So yeah, there's a lot to love on this figure. It's just... he requires some time to grow on you, and that's probably the biggest flaw in this figure, that just out of the box, it's hard to appreciate him. Yeah, he's one of my favorite animated figures, despite that there's really no reason for him to transform. Just stay in robot mode, you got access to the wings, and it's not like you're going to be disguised, but... well, regardless, the transformation, while it doesn't seem like it does much, is actually quite satisfying to do. And yeah. He's a nice figure. I like him quite a bit. Thanks for watching.